Thank you very much for attending. It's great to be here, and again, thanks for Harry and Keynote and Mo for setting up the conference. Today, I wanted to talk about Fantom's underlying technology and also the ecosystem as a whole, kind of like the ecosystem themes. So the themes we got going on for our ecosystem are DeFi, NFTs, NFT gaming, cross-chain bridges, that sort of thing, because I think these are the core areas that a lot of people are interested in developing on. They get a lot of attention. A lot of users want to use applications in sort of those categories. So I kind of wanted to cover that a bit, as well as talk about the underlying technology, because without the underlying technology, Fantom wouldn't really have an ecosystem, because you need the technology first to have the ecosystem, because the foundation level is what we call the distributed ledger technology. So what is Fantom? Fantom, I like to describe it as, is essentially what's known as ABFT, so asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance. So what do we mean by that? Well, asynchronous means that you can process transactions without having to wait for other transactions to confirm first. That as soon as you enter a transaction into the network, it can start to get confirmed by 2/3 plus 1 of the total validating power of the network. And you can achieve basically deterministic finality. So as soon as you reach that 2/3 plus 1 of the total consensus power of the network for that transaction, it gets entered into what's known as an event block. It gets appended to the chain, and it's final. So as opposed to, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum, where you have to wait for sorry? As opposed to Ethereum, where you have to wait, for 6 blocks typically, or Bitcoin, 6 blocks, because they follow what's known as the longest chain rule. So finality is not deterministic. With ABFT consensus, the way I like to describe it, and this is how we kind of get the speed and sorry. Oh, sorry, I think there's some conversation on the mic. So the kind of way I like to do the analogy is why we get a lot of speed and fast finality on Fantom is kind of like it. Sorry, I think there's somebody also talking through the mic. I can hear some conversation. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sorry about that, everyone. So, how we achieve fast finality and fast confirmation times on Fantom? What kind of makes it, I believe, more scalable than, say, Bitcoin and Ethereum is this asynchronous technology. And the way I kind of like to describe it is, think about a train, where if you're lining up to go onto a train for Bitcoin, say you've got to wait 10 minutes for the train to arrive, right? And then the train arrives, and then there's only a certain capacity of the train. Or in other words, there's only a number of transactions that can be entered into that particular block. So you're lining up, and then you may get into you may be able to enter the train, but if the train's full, then you've got to wait for the next train to arrive 10 minutes later. And because Bitcoin is based on what's known as longest chain rule, so you want to have more blocks confirmed ahead of when you're confirmed in a particular block, you basically have to do that 5 or 6 times. So to get real finality, say on Bitcoin, you have to wait for approximately an hour on average. The way that ABFT works is that it's kind of like a train on demand. So as soon as you enter, as soon as you enter the queue, well, there's no real queue. So as soon as you enter the train station, there's a train that's waiting there for you, and so you can enter the train, or what's known as an event block, along with the other transactions that have arrived at approximately the same time that you've arrived, and then you can enter that train, and then it will get passed along to the validator nodes to achieve your 2/3 plus 1 consensus. So you can see with this analogy that as soon as you turn up, you basically can start being confirmed by the network as opposed to, say, Bitcoin and Ethereum, where with Ethereum, you've got to wait, maybe 15 seconds on average for a block, and even then, that's the only earliest possible time. So if there's a lot of transactions in what's known as the TX pool, you have to wait a long time. So this is very critical, I think, to understand exactly how Fantom's technology works, because it's this ABFT that allows applications to run on top of it and confirm transactions in just a few seconds to achieve like low transaction fees, to achieve like high throughput. It's this asynchronous nature of the technology. And what has been really difficult about getting a workable ABFT, which we now have, is that you have to get an ordering of the transactions, even though it's asynchronous. So for like the programs out there, you probably understand like why that is very, very difficult to do, because the transactions always need to have a final order of transactions across all of the validated nodes every single time. Like there cannot be a single room for error, because it's one of the properties of consensus is that the ledgers are exactly the same from the beginning to the current time across all validating nodes. So actually, like the core team, led by Quan Nguyen, our Chief Technology Officer, along with Eagle and Alex and other developers, have been spending like the past couple of years like working on solving that problem. How do you get the ordering of transactions in the most efficient way possible? And through their work, we've now got a mainnet technology, right? That is asynchronous, secure. It is fast and pretty inexpensive as well. And it's leaderless as well. So what we mean by that is that no validated nodes are ranked one above the other. There's no, special counsel, or there's no like master nodes or anything like that. All nodes are created equal in the network, and they all follow the same validating rules. And so we've created this ecosystem where literally anybody with a computer can join Fantom, can connect, can do transactions on Fantom, can build on the technology, can build applications, and really engage with users on a platform that I think has pretty solid technology. Although there's still a lot more work to be done, for example, on data pruning, on more scalable forms of consensus, on things like sharding. So we're not there yet in terms of scalability. I think we have a real technology that's a lot more scalable than other technologies out there. But blockchains as a whole, they're not exactly scalable yet. We're still susceptible to what's known as the blockchain trilemma, which is the trade-off between security, decentralization, and speed. So I believe the only way you can solve that in the long term is to do something, for example, like sharding, which allows you to essentially horizontally scale your network, where you can just keep adding more and more computers to the network. And that's how we really transform Fantom's usage from a few 100,000 or a few million people to hundreds of millions of people, to possibly billions of people. And that's why there's been a big focus by the foundation, led by our technology team, to really build out the technology. Because I believe that when you build out the technology, everything else will follow. And we've kind of seen that already with our ecosystem, right? In that we had the underlying core technology, and it's fully EVM compatible. It's fully interoperable with smart contracts. So, and we did this deliberately so, because we wanted to get developers from Ethereum and other ecosystems to deploy on Fantom. So because we're entirely EVM compatible, the way that you write, compile, and deploy smart contracts on Ethereum, it works pretty much the same way as on Fantom as well. So I think this is part of the reason why we've been able to get a lot more applications on Fantom, particularly this year. Because developers have seen, wow, I can launch on Fantom, it's faster, it's more inexpensive, it's more scalable, rather than dealing with really expensive transaction fees on Ethereum, because it's not exactly the most scalable thing. And so developers have realized that the skills that have built up over the years building on Ethereum are entirely compatible with Fantom, that they just have to connect to basically like new endpoints, new RPC endpoints, connect to a new chain, and they can get started deploying the smart contracts that have, in some cases, already developed on Ethereum, or in many cases have actually started developing on Fantom directly itself, without even using other chains before, just directly building on Fantom, having native Fantom applications. And I think that's something that's really, really exciting to see. And we have an impressive tool set now, a lot of RPC servers set up. I have to give a big thank you to Casper as well, Casper Nice in the audience, because he is responsible for, Yeah, yeah, he's responsible for setting up really great, a really great high quality RPC service that has literally billions of transactions every month. I think the total number of calls used for the API it has exceeded like 40 or 50 billion already, and that's just in the past few months. So I think that those are some like really impressive metrics, and so I think the community owes like a big thank you to Casper for helping us out on that. And of course, we've integrated with a variety of different like infrastructure projects, API projects, for example, like the Graph, Covalent. We have our own GraphQL-based APIs as well that allow you to easily read information from on-chain. So really at the foundation, sort of our aim is to build the underlying technology and really help grow the ecosystem as much as possible. So we've been really focused on having like high quality distributed ledger and a high quality middleware with a variety of different tools like RPCs and APIs, and really just trying to help people launch on Fantom, because that's ultimately what our aim is at the foundation. So you can see on this slide, we have quite a few applications now, and it's probably outdated because this was just from I don't know, maybe like a few weeks ago. So you can see here we've got all sorts of different providers on NFTs, gamings are coming to Fantom as well, which I'll talk about a bit more. DeFi, privacy solutions, all sorts of different wallets as well, not just a foundation wallet or wallet produced by the foundation, but the wallets that have been produced by community members that have launched on Fantom. And an important point I want to kind of emphasize is that a lot of this is community driven. It's you guys, it's the developers, it's the people who are really interested in just building cool technology and launching it on Fantom, and just having a great time, engaging with users, engaging with the community, and just trying to build as successful application as possible. So I really thank you guys for attending this what I think is the first Fantom developer conference, and you guys are responsible for all these applications that are built on Fantom. It's not really the foundation. Foundation didn't build these hundreds of applications. All we did was build the underlying technology that all these applications run on top. Every single one of them does. And kind of my promise as working at the foundation is that I'll try my best to just continue to build out the underlying technology, because the better the technology gets, the better the ecosystem will be, and the more users we'll get, and the better things will be overall. So that's kind of my strategy, to focus on the bottom up, to focus on the core technology, and then to focus on helping out the ecosystem, helping out people launch and develop projects on Fantom. And I think that's how we've honestly kind of got to this point right now, because the journey was kind of painful. Fantom did an ICO in 2018. It raised $40 million, and things were honestly not going very well. There was no technology. There was not really a very strong team. There was just a dream, right? Or just a variety of different ideas. And we kind of had to press the restart button to figure out, okay, how do we actually build an VFT consensus? Okay, how do we actually build the services that come on top of it? The RPCs, the APIs, or all these like tool chains that developers are very used to, and developers really expect to have on a high quality chain. And so in 2018, we basically didn't really have anything. We had to start from scratch. And then in 2019, the core developers were working on the consensus, and then they managed to come up with, the first version of NAVFT consensus. I think probably the first that was leaderless, that had what's known as dynamic participation, so anybody could join and leave the network, and a technology that's entirely open source under the MIT license, so everybody can see every single line of code that's written in Golang, since the beginning of all the versions of Fantom that we've had to the current version now, which is still actively under development. Every single day, or almost every single day, you can see new commits for the Fantom repository. So the underlying technology is open source and it's for everybody to use. And on the 27th of December 2019, that's when we had the mainnet launch. And even then, we weren't getting too much attention. I think we were only processing maybe like a couple thousand or 3,000 transactions per day, and we've come so far. Because in 2020, we just were focusing more on developing the core technology and improving it, and we started to get a little bit of traction. But really, in 2021 is when we had the exponential growth. So we had, the number of transactions went from a few thousand to now hundreds of thousands of transactions every single day, sometimes even over 1 million. And on some days, we even surpassed the number of transactions that we had on Ethereum, which I think is just like an impressive achievement by the technology team. and of course, the people developing on Fantom too. And of course, we started off with just a few applications on the Fantom ecosystem, and then more and more developers joined. And people created really, in my opinion, like really high quality applications. It began with the DEXs, and then more sophisticated DeFi protocols, and then now there are more like NFT-like projects coming onto Fantom. And there are literally hundreds of applications now. And almost every single day, I kind of open up my phone, and there's like a new project that's launched on Fantom, and I didn't even know about it before. It just pops up, and I think that's amazing because I think now we're getting that kind of network effects where we have a good underlying technology, still needs to be built upon, but we have great underlying technology as a foundation. We have developers building applications there that users love. And then more users join the network, which encourages more developers to join the network, which encourages more users to join the network. And so we get that kind of really nice virtuous cycle, as I like to call it, where it's basically network effects. And that's how we've kind of grown from just a handful of users to literally hundreds of thousands of users now. And I think it's just getting started. We just keep building out the technology. We keep doing what we've been doing for the past few years. I think Fantom will be okay in the end, or at least that's my hope. So I just wanted to go through a few themes to do with the ecosystem before handing it over to the real developers. So we've got a variety of different wallet providers, as I mentioned before, and we've tried to become as ubiquitous with Ethereum as possible for the end user. Because a lot of people, for example, are very used to, say, MetaMask. Millions of people use it. It's a very, very, it's a pretty straightforward for the average crypto user technology to use to connect on-chain, to do transactions, to sign transactions. And so with, for example, one of the first objectives we had in terms of tool chains was to integrate with MetaMask, simply because it's a great technology out there that a lot of people use. So a lot of focus was going after the wallets that people use in the end. So with MetaMask, you can simply just add in the chain ID, a few other details about the Fantom network, and then you can connect, and then you can submit transactions pretty much exactly how you do on Ethereum. So for the end user, how you interact with the Fantom network is pretty much like how you interact with Ethereum, except the consensus is completely different. So things are a lot faster, a lot cheaper, and we're just going to keep working on the technology and make that even better than it currently is. So we also the first big group of applications came on the Fantom late 2020, early 2021, had to do with DeFi, decentralized finance. And as I mentioned before, it began with DEXs. There were actually two high quality, I don't know about the first token of Fantom, but I was about to say that the two first native DEXs on Fantom were to my knowledge, were Spooky and Spirit Swap. And I remember months ago when I first started using those protocols, I was like, wow, the technology, the user interface for these DEXs, these swaps, was actually so impressive. And I honestly thought it was better than Uniswap. It was better than SushiSwap. It was better than what was available on Ethereum. I honestly believe that. I thought the interface was just absolutely brilliant. And so I really like those two projects because I think what they've built and what they're continuing to build is really great underlying technology. And it really helped, I think, kickstart the ecosystem, where now we've expanded to vaults, to automatic market makers, to lending and borrowing protocols, to all these sorts of DeFi applications that you see on Ethereum. They're all coming to Fantom. A lot of them are coming to Fantom. I mean, we've seen people, for example, like Curve and Yearn and Cream and other big protocols that are very, very popular on Ethereum have figured out, hey, it doesn't take that much effort to integrate on Fantom. It's the same middleware technology. It's the same Ethereum virtual machine. Let's deploy on Fantom as well and see what kind of traction they get. And they managed to get a lot of traction. I think the total value locked we have on chain now is over $1 billion. And earlier in the year, it was just a few $1 million, if that. And so the growth has been tremendous, and I think it will continue to grow. So you can see like some statistics here, like just for the ecosystem in general. In just one quarter, it went up. Total value locked this year went up by 50%. We have like billions of dollars of transactions, total value locked on chain now, and now the industry though is starting to pivot more towards like gaming as now, which is another like big growth area. I think that is important for Fantom and the crypto ecosystem as a whole. The whole play to earn model, where people can play games, enjoy playing games, having fun doing that, while also building up something that has value as well and is tradable. So being able to make a living off of it, like we've seen with Axie Infinity, while also having enjoyment just out of playing a game that people enjoy. So with NFT platforms, we've got basically like marketplaces. And marketplaces are, we've got like Artean, we've got PaintSwap, we've got ZooCoin, we've got all sorts of different marketplaces that are launching. The whole value proposition for people who want to engage in buying and selling and trading NFTs is that you can do it on a platform with the underlying technology is fast and scalable, but also at zero or very little fees. And so you should come on to Fantom. You should engage in the marketplaces. That's where you should be producing your NFTs, and that's where you should be exchanging value, doing that sort of thing. And I think the important thing is that with Artean, it was an NFT marketplace that came out of the foundation. But with open source of the code, we're going to keep open sourcing the code because in the end, we want the community to be running the marketplaces. We want the community to be building these applications. The foundation is just there to work on the core technology and to help people integrate and deploy on Fantom. So we've seen with the industry stats for NFTs, just like DeFi, it's just absolutely exploding. So the total sales in 2020 was under $100 million for the whole year. In 2021, so far up to this point, is over $10 billion. And so I think for the Fantom ecosystem, in terms of like getting more users to grow, I think NFTs, gaming are really, really big areas on the application side of things. And of course, we have game finance or gamify. So people are now building all these sorts of games where you can build up a character, for example. You can craft materials. You can build up all sorts of different items that are all represented on NFTs, and you can trade them with other individuals and basically make a living while also being able to have fun playing a game. And I think this is a very, very interesting model because we've actually already seen it before, even before the whole concept of NFTs, or even before blockchains were even an idea. Because in the past, we've seen with other games, for example, like EVE Online, there have been digital items that have been sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There have been all sorts of like different characters and items sold on different like MMORPG games in particular that have sold for a tremendous amount of money. And for example, like on Steam, you have the concept of like skins of these items where you can like kind of dress up your character, make your character have a distinct look. And those skins have been making like honestly like hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think, the whole digital item space outside of crypto is already in the billions of dollars. And I think NFTs, gamify, is just a natural extension of that technology because you have all the benefits of NFTs, which is, tradable, it's audible, it's a unique representation of a particular item. You have all the benefits of NFTs on chain, and you're basically applying it to digital items. That's all simply gamify is. And as we've seen with Axie, it can be life-changing for some people. Some people have made a lot of money playing Axie from countries where they don't necessarily earn a lot of money, and they've been doing really well out of it. And they're having fun as well. It's another form of entertainment. So we've seen that on blockchain games, it's gone from less than 100,000 users in 2020 up into this point, like over 1 million. And I think it's another big growth area on Fantom as well. And we've seen, a game, Rarity, I think the first NFT game, or the first big NFT game launched on Fantom just a couple of months ago. Thanks to Andre and people that he knows have launched that game, dungeon style like game. It's been responsible for upwards of hundreds of thousands of transactions on chain. There have been over 170,000 unique users. Hundreds of thousands of summoners or characters have been created. And people have been crafting items, have been training items, have been leveling up the characters, and honestly have just been having fun while also being able to create NFTs and something of value that they can exchange with other individuals and also make a bit of a living out of it. So I think Rarity and Axie as well are great examples of the demand for games there. And I think over time, the demand for gaming has already been growing over the past decade or so. I mean, I remember playing StarCraft 10, 12 years ago, and the prize pool, for example, for World Cyber Games, if you won the StarCraft final, was, I think, like $50,000. And now there are League of Legends players, there are Dota players that are earning more than PGA golf players are earning. So there's a tremendous amount of growth in esports in general, in gaming in general, and I think that sort of growth is what you're going to be seeing on blockchains as well. And so for Fantom, I think the Fantom ecosystem should try and capture as much of that growth as possible. And we have seen a lot of games looking to deploy on Fantom because they just love the underlying technology and they can see the sort of traction that the Fantom chain has been getting, and so they're looking to deploy on Fantom. So I'm really, really hopeful when it comes to NFT gaming. And of course, another important aspect of the ecosystem we need to mention are cross-chain bridges. So they're essential for moving assets across different chains. So these are essentially third-party custodians. And we've seen a lot of people move their assets from other chains, such as Ethereum onto Fantom. And this allows people to engage in basically like the Fantom a decentralized finance ecosystem. And so, for example, like multi-chain and Ren and other bridges have been an essential part of the ecosystem, of allowing the ecosystem to grow, of allowing people from other chains to also bridge their assets, to bridge their cryptocurrencies, to bridge what they have from other chains to Fantom, to kind of have the Fantom experience. And hopefully, they get a bit sticky, they decide to stay on Fantom or mainly use Fantom in the end. And so cross-chain bridges have been an essential part of the infrastructure of the strategy in helping to grow the ecosystem. And yeah, that's pretty much my presentation. So I just wanted to give, yeah. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, so I just wanted to give kind of a high-level talk about the underlying technology, about kind of like the ecosystem in general, and really just leave it to the developers, because I'm very interested to see what presentations developers have to offer, because essentially the Fantom ecosystem are the developers, building great applications on top of what I think is a pretty cool technology. So I wanted to leave it to you guys, and so I hope you have a great time here. And again, thanks a lot to Harry and Mo and Keynote for setting this up. And yeah, hope you have a great time. Thank you.